Good evening, everyone. This is going to be a probably quick video. Have to, well, I want to do the upgrade on the home server OmniOS 42 to 44. Looking at the instructions here, it's a really straightforward, wonderful process. So, um, thought we'd go through this. Uh, Hopefully, this won't take more than 10 or so minutes. Maybe even less, and take a look and talk a little bit about the home server and my experience with OmniOS. So, um, let's find out when I put this together and how long it's been running. Let's see, pool history, our pool. So, two. So this machine was built in, well, almost 3 years ago, and it has been rock solid ever since. OmniOS has just worked fantastically. Um, you know, for virtualization, storage. So this functions as a NAS and does all my um, zones, VMs, etc. There arguably aren't too many right now. I've been cleaning them up a little bit. Um, it is going to be time to expand storage at some point. But let's go through the upgrade and get it going. So we're going to use uh, the boot environment admin command to create a backup. Create a suitable backup here. And we're going to just set the publishers for the packages, and that should be pretty straightforward. Take a second to create the boot environment. So I already have some plans for the next home server, and this hardware is now. I don't think it was the latest and greatest when I got it in what 2020, um, and now we can get a lot faster. And there are some things I do that require some speed there. But also for the price and the power, you get more cores, more threads. Makes sense to upgrade at some point soon, probably in 6 months or so. So let me. Well, that's a little annoying. Can't copy so easily in e-links here. We'll just do it manually. And OmniOS. So setting the endpoints or the package sources, I should say, for the two repositories that are in use. Pretty much all we need to do. Um, let's see here if we're doing um, different sort of zones. So I'm only doing sparse, LX and package source, which is a type of sparse, or the linked image package zones. You don't need to worry about all this stuff. Only if you're doing ones that diverge from main. And get the extra repo. Okay, we should be ready to actually do the upgrade now. So, just this guy here. Wish copy and paste work. I should test these things beforehand. Um, just as a side, one of the things that I've kind of come around on or was introduced to from the OmniOS is one of the LX images they have is for Void Linux, a little tiny distro, and I've started using that more and more. So this is a Void VM I'm in right now. Get my arguments right here. And we give it a boot environment name. Let's see how fast this goes. And it's moving along pretty quick. So one of the things I need to get back to is we put I set up Postgres. Um, Probably going to be doing some stuff with Airflow. I use it professionally, um, so I may do a quick thing on setting up Airflow and playing around with it. Um, the other one is some Fortran related content. So again, probably some quick stuff. So we create a boot environment, we activate the boot environment, we're removing some packages, updating. We got our name of the new boot environment, and we'll have to go through all the zones I have, um, or all the Illumos zones, right? So the LX don't work the same way. Um, Go through all those, do the updates, and it's all going to be something very similar. Uh, but because these may have a different set of packages in them, the remove and add will look a little different per package. So one of the ones, interesting things, speaking of ES40, some people have taken it and I think, did they maybe take my copy? Uh, I don't know, and they've made some modifications. Some good, they've tweaked it, they've got really good documentation for it. It's now called AXP Box. Um, I think they've made some modifications as well. One of the modifications I don't so much like is CMake, but you know, CMake is kind of going everywhere. Even some discussions in the SimH um, world about moving that to CMake, which is a little crazy um, to see that. I mean, that is a giant make file, but it makes sense. And I can't imagine too many people are building on some of the more antiquated platforms. I don't know. I might be. You know, I need to start nesting antiques. So, private network router zone. Um, Zone-based routing is pretty cool. Like I said, Illumos has been a fantastic, wonderful environment to work in. OmniOS rock solid. Server, one of my workstations, Triblix, they're fantastic. All the great stuff about Solaris without any of the headaches. Um, I can't say enough good about Illumos, about OmniOS in particular. Triblix as well. All the things I used to do something very similar to this one with SmartOS. It turns out I don't necessarily want to do everything in either a zone or a VM. I'd like to do some stuff in the global zone, and OmniOS is a little bit better for that. Whereas you see, I have, I don't know, 6 to 8 zones, or Beehive VMs. So the hypervisor only attitudes of SmartOS, don't really suit my need, but I did used to use it for a lot of the very similar stuff. Um, and we haven't looked at Triblix in a while. Might be fun to pull that up in a VM and play around with it a bit. It has a lot of cool stuff. Zap for managing zones is it's got its own flavor. Um, I was using Zcage here on OmniOS for a while. Now they have built-in ZADM. ZADM is great. I like it a lot. Hey, it's written in Perl, so that's going to tickle my fancy. Um, and again, leave a comment if you want to go through some ZADM stuff um, for OmniOS, and we can play around with that a little bit. But it makes creating and editing and modifying zones really, really handy. And so this will take a few minutes here to do this update or upgrade, but it doesn't look like it'll be too bad. Once we're done with the instructions here, let me get another terminal over on the OmniOS box, and we can take a look at what we're doing. Yeah, I put in, I think, 240 gig SSDs for the root pool. I haven't used a whole heck of a lot of it. Um, so just about everything is on my zones pool. The next one I'm probably going to do, three pools, which might be a little bit better. Um, maybe even go a little smaller with the root pool. Um, although getting smaller SSDs is harder and harder, but maybe put that, get a fast pool on NVMe. See how we're doing. Oh, well, 10% done. More than that because we're bandwidth limited here on the network more than anything. Yeah, it's doing nothing. Um, see what my version is of ZADM. Hopefully we'll get a new ZADM version um, with this upgrade. See if there's anything new. And yeah, so I got a lot of other compilers and things I don't need. So I'll mention it now since this is kind of just I got an opportunity to talk a little bit. A really cool tool that I just found out about called L4tran. Well, there's a couple. There's Flang compiler, based, part of the equivalent of Clang for C on LLVM. But another LLVM related Fortran project is L4tran, and it's got an interactive mode, and it's super cool. Don't really want to fire up a terminal to show you now. It probably deserves its own little video. It wouldn't be long because it wouldn't be in depth on Fortran, but more that you get an interactive, kind of like you would get an interactive Python uh, environment. But you get that for Fortran, and I believe it also integrates with Jupyter. If you're a notebook type, you can do that as well. So it is a fantastic, fantastic project. It's not perfect yet. There's couple couple bits and pieces still under development, but the promise is huge. Um, Fortran is a great language for doing math, which I occasionally have to do, uh, and it's a great way to annoy Python people because Fortran used to be fixed positional. Now modern Fortran, you can be a little bit more free with it, but you know your errant white space in Python will cause some trouble. So I think we'll still be under the 10-minute mark here for this. Go back and look at our write stats. Oh, we got a nice burst there. So half of the files, more than half of the packages, and 2/3 of the overall transfer. One of the interesting things back to L4tran, and just while we wait for this, is that it, their documentation is like the easiest way to get it is to use Conda, um, the Anaconda, the Python environment creation tool. So we can go through that. That is a little interesting, but I mean, you can also just build it. Um, but it's easiest just to get the binaries there. So Python is taking over the Python environments. In my workplace, I mean, that's just become the de facto standard uh, for just about everything, which is a little nutty. Maybe showing my age a little bit. Uh, when I started, maybe pre-real professional, I was still a teenager, but in some of these environments, Tickle was the dynamic language that was you know commonly used in a number of places, and then Perl came in, and at least those are both kind of C syntax based, curly braces. Ruby had its moment, but it seems like Python is kind of the de facto standard. I have to do more in it than I would like, as I mentioned, Airflow, one of the tools I have to deal with all the time. Great tool, like I love it, but it is Python-y, and it's unfortunately the name. Oh, yeah, being of G4tran just went by. But yeah, we are closing in on being done with this upgrade here. 500 files left to go, thereabouts. And so we'll do the linking of the zones, and that should be it. We can reboot and see the update. This is one of those updates. I don't think there's anything really flashy that could be shown off here. I mean, it's and they pulled some Python stuff. I think they're integrating it a little differently. Um, some of the changes in Beehive, I'm eager to check out. They listed some improvements. I'd like to see those. I probably don't do enough in Beehive as I should. I've got a couple of BSD machines running there to do networking functions, firewall and the router, security gateway stuff. It's all free BSD. Um, but yeah, Beehive is really cool. I think I have a Windows. I occasionally will bring up a Windows 10 Beehive instance. Uh, but yeah, that's the next iteration of home server. I'll have a little bit of a faster um, location to put some of the zones and VMs, because right now that's all on the uh, spinning, the non-solid state drives, and could be faster. I don't really need that much I/O, but Windows gets a little sluggish um, for Windows 10. Everything else runs fine. I mean, the FreeBSD boots almost instantly and runs great, but a lot smaller. So in operations like this, where we got to go through you can see nothing's going on our pool, but if we look at the zones uh, pool, we'll get some activity there. And that's a lot slower. In fairness, I probably could have, before doing this, gotten rid of a couple of these that probably need to be, rebuilt and cleaned out. Um, don't do a whole lot with the VAX anymore because the hobbyist program for VAX VMS ended. Of course, have my alpha VM there, and I probably should actually spin up a couple more alphas and maybe play around with the VMS cluster there. Um, but I should kill that guy. Uh, as well, we're not going to do any of that while this is running. So, the alpha emulator is eating up one core forever, uh, and that's just since I last rebooted, which, oh, 7 days. I think there's probably some other, update, security update then. Um, but yeah, that guy's just sitting there, um, consuming a lot. But yeah, I got to turn off uh, the password expiry. I don't know why I didn't do that when I set it up, but yeah, maybe that'll be something new to do. But we'll look at what kind of performance we're getting off the alpha here while this finishes up. Yeah, so 85 ups, not great, not bad. And that's why I'm excited about that AXP box software, and maybe it'll get some more development. Um, an alpha emulator with an idle loop detector for OpenVMS would be wonderful. Um, because as you were seeing here, you know, eating up one, it's wasteful of power. Um, it's just not necessary uh, for that to happen. And there are commercial alpha emulators. The commercial version of this one, which is no longer a free download, but the commercial version of this, you can pay for an optional module for their just-in-time compilation and their idle detection. Um, but these are commercial products for replacing, and the areas where OpenVMS was embedded, they kind of have them over a barrel, and so they charge a bit for those. Yeah, doing all these zones is going to take a while. Um, I'm usually used to just doing a patch, security updates. You don't have to do such large scale changes. It goes pretty quickly. Uh, but I can try to fill some more time here um, as we go along. So we'll take a look at Zadm just because I think it's a fantastic tool, and this is just a little bit of an overview. Um, but you just give it a create, zone name, give it a brand, And the brands are, you got your regular image package zone, the ones that we would have had to do some additional modification for the upgrade here. Linked image package, sparse. I think there is even an Illumos brand. Yeah. So the Illumos brand, and this is something I played around with a little bit, but you can actually have a different Illumos, you know, environment under one of those. Uh, I'm not describing that at all accurately, but for instance, you might want to run, I don't know, Triblix under there and get some of those bits and pieces. Um, it should be possible. Played around with it. I think I did. I get it to work. This was some time ago. But you get the Illumos brand, obviously the LX brand, and uh, package source. But one of the nice things about ZADM is that it encapsulates a lot of what you need, and a handy command, and the command syntax is really comfortable for me. Zcage was great and had a decent syntax. Zap, which maybe we'll do one on the Triblix. That also is really convenient. So I think it's ZADM and Zap for the zone. Yeah, I could have just done the brands. Yeah, they're all the brands. So of course Beehive and KVM as well. Um, but ZADM makes it really, really convenient um, to manipulate, create, manipulate, and delete zones. Um, but it has some handy uh, to list images. Let's see. So get the see what's in OmniOS bloody in a zone. That's pretty cool. Uh, get a specific version in a zone. Um, see what Beehive ones are available. I don't know why some KVMs are shown up there. Maybe these can be used as well. Um, but create a Beehive of the same thing. And the one I use oftentimes, just because Linux is a thing, unfortunately, is the LX zones. And this is the one I've started using a lot, is the Void Linux. And it's been pretty handy. It's taken their package tools are nice, and it is really lightweight um, when you get it in. Previously, I was using the CentOS 7 typically uh, for most of the stuff, just because that's what uh, I use on the workplace all the time. But yeah, the Void really nice. Would highly recommend, especially for things like your LX zones where they're pretty small. Um, so I don't want to create a new zone right now, obviously, but maybe I will get inspired to do a screen record of playing around with the LX or the LX zone of Void, um, or a whole desktop environment like this. But like I said, ZADM is fantastic, and pull the version back up so I can see if I can remember that 13.3. We are halfway done. So I do apologize. I didn't realize this was going to be such a big upgrade, and working on these zones. And in fairness, I could have gotten rid of this guy and this guy, so we could have saved a couple minutes there. Another thing that is, I think, going to be a little interesting, that is hopefully upcoming in the new year, FreeBSD 14. Um, got my interest peaked. NetBSD 10. So some uh, some interesting things coming up in the future. But like I said, the agenda right now is just getting through the end of the year at work, and that means things that are work adjacent that I can talk about. Um, Probably be first up. Like I said, airflow, just so I can get another uh, environment here, and also test airflow out in an Illumos zone, so an OmniOS zone. Um, See how well it works, if there's any issues there, because I think that would be a good deployment target. And for some of the things I want to use it for in the home setting, the ability to delegate some data sets into it, expose stuff, and use it for orchestrating backups and data moves, things like that. It'll be handy. So as always, do leave a note below in the comments if any of the stuff I've talked about seems more interesting or less, um, and may bubble it up closer to the top of the list for me um, to do. And I apologize that I've been a little remiss in getting on here recently and going through stuff. Sometimes, after a hard day of working in front of the terminal, you don't necessarily want to be in front of one for hobby purposes, especially when it's very similar stuff to what one's been doing. But things like this, regular maintenance, is important, and I'm glad to record and talk about it while it goes through. So yeah, I'm rambling. So it is past dinner time, so I'll blame the low blood sugar here. And but really, it's more just I didn't plan that this was going to take this long. Um, yeah, that's not in there. Oh, one of the other things, since this is more just a stream of news and updates, um, I've been starting to use org mode in Emacs. So I'm an Emacs user. I don't have it here. It's on, work MacBook, where I have my setup kind of tweaked and all my org files. But I've really come to like org mode. Um, and for you Emacs users out there, you probably are well aware of org mode and are like, oh, this is old news, and me starting to use it, 6 months ago, I'm probably well late to the party. Um, but it has really boosted productivity, but also the ability to make outputs um, using the renderers there. Um, how one might do with, Markdown, but using the org syntax, um, put things together. Uh, and especially for things like code. And there's a great feature, I forget the name of it right now, where you can actually execute um, bits of foreign code, um, even setting up a compile job to do, let's say you had a little C snippet or something you want to put in there, you absolutely can. But I use it mainly for some dynamic stuff. So I put shell in there, Perl. Of course, you could put Lisp, but that's not really my cup of tea. Um, but yeah, org mode is fantastic. I would say like I could do a video on org mode, but you really don't want to hear me go through it. You probably want someone who's a bit more expert in both org mode and Lisp go through it. Um, but I will say, as just a user of it, it is pretty wonderful and game changing. Um, one of the things I suffered some issues organizationally over the years, and it does really help just start laying things out in a way that fits in a workflow. So I'll always have at least one or two Emacs frames up at any given time, and to not have to switch into a different tracking and organizational software is great. Um, the tabling feature is great uh, in org mode. Apparently, you can do some spreadsheet calculations in there. I haven't done that. Um, typically, if I need a terminal spreadsheet, I'll stick to SCIM, and that's what made me think about it. Um, SCIM there. So we are almost at the end here. Yeah, yeah, we're fleshing stuff out here. So all six of my um, sparse or package source zones are updated, and that looks well flushed. We'll get both of these. And we're almost done this upgrade. So pretty painless. Probably the most painful thing was having to sit and wait around when I said it was going to be, what, 10 minutes? And it did not turn out to be just 10 minutes. If you didn't have any of these zones, that would have been much faster. And if I was on more modern hardware, it also would have been significantly faster. So, I think we had what? Yeah, used up some space here, but still, tiny fraction of space used on my root pool. Okay, so we've got a clone of our boot environment. We got our new boot environment. So let's reboot and see if we can get back in. my init 6 is not working. Hit it with a reboot. We'll give that a moment to come back, and we'll log in again. Check it out. So there I have my uh, Triblix ZFS sends for doing the foreign uh, or the Illumos brand zone. So we are now 144 or R151044. So okay, same ZADM. All my stuff is back up. Just seeing if my OpenVMS uh, emulated alpha is up yet. There we go. It takes another moment or so to boot. Yeah, and it is not. See, my password is expired, so I got to go through and deal with that, reset that. Should have changed it when I logged in. But that is OmniOS upgrade. Um, Thanks for sticking around for the long haul with this. Um, Meant this to be quick, but it turned long. But I do appreciate the time here. And the summary is OmniOS is fantastic. Illumos is fantastic. Um, Wonderful stuff. Rock solid. All the cool Solaricisms. Um, and none of the I don't want to be too negative, but none of the things one might find in Linux that cause trouble. So thanks again for watching. More stuff to come soon.